Let's have some fun with React and TypeScript. What we are going to do is we are going to convert a pre-existing React class-based component written in TypeScript to a React functional component written in TypeScript. Let me show you the finished product. If you've used Material UI before, you might recognize the style. So it's a very simple component here. All we are doing is we're toggling this button from off to on, and when we toggle this button state to on, it will show an array of number that we've computed to multiply by the index to itself. Okay, let's get started. Let's take a look at the class-based component in TypeScript on my right. So we have the typical this pointer, which is rather awkward in JavaScript in general. Remember, TypeScript is just syntactic sugar. It's still transpiled down to JavaScript. Um, and then we have a default state with a button condition, with the button state being on false by default. And then in the state we have an array called list, and then we have this this sample function, and this sample function, all it does is it loops through this array here, and it multiplies the index to the element of each array, and then it pushes that array into yet another array called list, which is kind of confusing because you have the list here and you have the list here. Anyhow, and then you set the state to whatever button state is toggled to, and of course this list here to this list here. The logic for the button toggle isn't implemented in the class yet, but we will be doing that here shortly. And as you can see here, we're pulling in button from Material UI. Okay, so let's get started converting this over to a to a functional component using TypeScript. And we are also going to implement the logic to toggle the button. So I went ahead and imported useState from React Core. I like to group the CSS together. The CSS I have here is very simple, just a grid to center the button to the middle of the browser. So in my mind, what I like to do is I like to have at least two pieces of state, which will go there. And then I'm going to write some logic for computation. This loop here, but I'm not going to I'm not going to do the for loop. I'm going to have an alternate means. And then also I'm going to have some logic to toggle the button. Okay. Okay, so first things first, let's think about the state, okay? Because I need to have the on off text on the button to be dynamic. So I need to set up some state for that. So by the naming convention, we know that's going to be a Boolean. Okay, I'm going to have the button by default to be in the off state. Okay, so therefore, true off will be true. Okay, because I don't want to show the end user anything unless they want to see that array. And then the next piece of state is the actual array itself, which I'll call my array, and then set my array. I'll cast a generic here to a numbers array. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy 1 to 10 from this array here in the state. Here, they are hard coding the numbers elements into the array, and I'm doing the same thing in this useState hook. But really, um, in real life, these numbers will probably come with some sort of API or some sort of GraphQL call, which will probably be fetched in use effect hook. But for this exercise, we're just going to go ahead and hard code it in here. Now, for the computation part of this, in the class, they are using a for loop. Okay. I think what we could do here is we can make the code a little bit more succinct by using a higher order function. Let's use map. So let's say const compute value say compute. Actually, I should say computed, right? Computed value array. I'm gonna say my array. Remember, we have this array here is already hard coded in here. Dot map. As you can see here, the metadata for the map higher order function, it has an index. It takes an index as a parameter, right? So I'm going to utilize that. So we do element and then IDX for index. And then all we're going to do is going to multiply each element by the index to get the computed value. And map will return an array, right? So basically, this one line of code is doing the work of line 16 through line 19 on the class side. Just give myself some breathing room here. And then I'm going to have some sort of toggle logic, because when we click this button, I want to activate. I want to fire off an event. So let's call it toggle. Okay, and then let me define this function. So const toggle button. Okay, set. That set is off, not set it off, which is the name of 90s movie, right? Okay, was it 90s or 2000? Anyways, interesting movie. Let's see, here is off. Okay, basically I'm just doing a switcheroonie. So if we toggle this, we just say not is off, right? We're just doing the classic switcheroonie. Sorry, not a switcheroonie, a switch to back and forth, a toggle between off and on state, like a light switch, Let's see here. Let's call this toggle button. There we go. There's my autocomplete. And then we need to make the text on the button dynamic. So let's use a ternary here. So if it is in the off state, right, is off here. By default, off is true, right? So off by default is off because it's true, right? And so here we're going to say if it's off, then we're going to show the off text. Otherwise, it would be the on text. And then, as you can see down here, we want to display the computed array after this function has been ran, right? And then we want to change the state. So this is what this is for here. This we're gonna because map returns a new array with the computed value. Okay, so if it's on, we're gonna render the computed value. So let's just put that. Where should I put it? Let's put it here. Okay. So if it's not, so that the button is not in an off state, meaning that it's on, we can do a shorthand here, and we are going to display the array. Let's do, I'm not sure we'll get autocomplete here. Yep, yay, autocomplete. So let's see here. We're going to render the computed value array, which is this guy here. Okay, it's an array. Okay. Let's see what it looks like now. We need to refresh this. Okay, there it is. Okay, let me make this a little bit easier to read. Let's do JSON. JSON.stringify. Stringified, like that, and then like that. I don't know if that's any easier to read, but let's see if it's any easier. Let me refresh this. I guess it's a little bit easier to read. Well, it's just a styling thing. I can just change the style to make that. But yeah, there you have it. It's pretty easy, right? It's a lot less code, as you can tell, right? A lot less code than on the class-based component side. And then you remember that ultimately the lifecycle hook for the class-based component will be deprecated. So you want to probably think about transferring this over to a class-based component and get rid of all these awkward this pointer. Let me see what else I need to tell you. Oh yeah, so I'm not using the setter for the my array because I'm hard coding this here. But obviously, in the real world, you would have to fetch the numbers from some sort of data source, right? Whether it be a RESTful API fetch or some sort of GraphQL endpoint, and using the use effect hook, and then you would have to call this setter in the use effect hook or something like that. Okay, but that's not necessary here. Okay, so if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It does not cost you anything. If you are already a subscriber, thank you for being a subscriber. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.